Good evening and welcome to the Greenfield Public Schools School Committee meeting for Wednesday, December 9th, 2020. This meeting is being held fully remotely in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts March 12, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, GLC 30A, Section 20. We'll move right into the agenda. Member Johnson Musad, would you do a roll call for us, please?
Member Karen?
Here.
Vice Chair Ekstrom?
Here.
Member Hollins?
Here.
Secretary Johnson Musad, I'm a yes. Chair Poyetti?
Here.
Member Wall?
Here.
Mayor Wiedegardner?
She's definitely here. She must be.
I don't have
muted.
audio on her, but I got a visual that
Here.
says she's here.
Here.
Yep.
Here.
We are all here.
Wonderful. So I call the meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. We'll do next the approval of the minutes, which are from, am I right, Thursday, November 19th are the correct minutes for this meeting that we're approving? I believe that's correct. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from Thursday, November 19th? Sorry, people, I'll try to take care of that.
So move.
That's Member Wall with the motion in a second.
Wiedegardner, second.
And any discussion of the minutes? Hearing none, let's go ahead and do a roll call for approval.
Member Karen?
There you go.
Hello, I'm here. Sorry, I was getting a lot of feedback. I can hear you now. Yes is my answer.
Okay, Vice Chair Ekstrom?
Yes.
Member Hollins?
Yes.
Secretary Johnson Musad, I'm a yes. Chair Poyetti?
Yes.
Yes.
Mayor Wiedegardner?
Yes.
Motion carries. All in favor.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move right into public comment. For those of you who have not.
I'm sorry, this is Susan Farber just jumping in here.
That's fine.
That was to approve the minutes of November 19th. Are we going to discuss the minutes of November 24th?
Do we have both of those in the packet? We must, huh? Is it just
I believe
after it?
so.
Okay. Why am I not seeing it in there? I think I'm. There they are. I'm sorry. Let's also have a motion to approve the minutes from the special meeting on Monday, November 24th. Sorry for the confusion.
So moved. Johnson Musad?
In a second.
Second, Ekstrom.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call to approve.
Member Karen?
Yes.
Vice Chair Ekstrom?
Yes.
Member Hollins? Secretary Johnson Musad, I'm a yes. Chair Poyetti?
Yes.
Member Wall?
Yes.
Mayor Wiedegardner?
Yes.
Motion carries. All in favor.
Thank you. I don't see any other minutes of meetings in there, so we'll move into public comment. And thank you, Susan Farber, for getting me back on track there. For people who have not joined us in the past for our public comment on a remote platform, we do it two different ways. We will start with anyone who's joined us here on the WebEx platform and is able to use the chat function to type their name into the chat, indicating that they want to do public comment. We'll take those first, and you'll have 3 minutes. Once we've gone through everyone who has indicated their interest in the chat box, we will do a verbal request for public comment for people who are joining us on the phone or otherwise unable to use the typing function. And Member Johnson Musad will call the first person. Again, you'll have 3 minutes. I'll walk you through it. We will time you. You don't have to time yourself.
Not seeing anyone in the chat yet.
I don't believe that. All right, people, step up. Don't be shy. You've all been contacting us saying that you want to make public comment. Now's your chance.
Jackson Karen would like to speak.
Jackson Karen is up first. Jackson, please state your name and your town that you live in, and you'll have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Oh, we've lost video. Can you hear us?
We can hear you.
Okay, we can't hear you, but Jackson's gonna go ahead.
Jackson.
Go say your name.
Mom, don't leave.
Hi, I'm Jackson Karen. I live in Greenfield. I'm not really good at this stuff sometimes, so I like to play hockey, and I really think it should happen. I mean, that's not really a good reason for it to happen, but for example, you think about it like this: those kids who are out there playing right now are still playing for other teams, and if we bring them to Greenfield, we have better control over where they're playing and how they're playing. And I'm not good at this. I don't know. I mean, I want to play because it helps my mental health, and I feel better when I do sports, and I feel just better about myself in the world when I play sports, and hockey's just something I really like, and it's a sport I really enjoy.
Okay, that's good. You can be done.
You did great, Jackson. Thank you very much. We appreciate
Good
your
job,
comments.
Jackson.
You did a great job. Member Johnson Musad, do we have anyone else?
We do. Sean Levine.
Sean Lavoine, go ahead. You have
Lavoine.
3 minutes. Please start with your full name and the town that you live in.
My name is Sean Lavoine. I live in Greenfield.
And go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to first thank the school committee for hearing us tonight. My wife and I live in Greenfield, and we have 2 children that attend Greenfield High School. I'm speaking tonight because I understand that winter sports are on the agenda, and I'd like to share with you my experience with youth sports, in particular with ice hockey, since the COVID-19 pandemic has begun. I'm currently the president of the Franklin County Hockey Association, which is based here in Greenfield, but our families reside in many different towns in Franklin County, quite similar to the towns that make up the co-op of the Greenfield High School hockey team. At FCHA, we have always made safety a priority, and this year, what it means to be safe has really been taken to new heights. Based on guidance from the state, we have been able to successfully hold practices and games at Collins Moylan Arena for the past 3 months. Everyone that enters the arena is wearing a face mask at all times, and this includes players while they are on the ice during a practice or game, coaches and officials at all time, and all spectators. Spectators have been limited to the guidance set forward by the state to 2 adults per participant, and all spectators are required to maintain social distancing. Locker rooms are closed, and participants can only enter the arena 10 minutes prior to their ice session to further limit interactions. Upon a practice or game ending, players take off their skates and depart the arena immediately and take off their hockey gear outside. All safety guidelines have been shared with parents and continue to be shared as new guidance evolves from the state or Mass Hockey or USA Hockey. At FCHA, we've been able to provide for a safe experience for over 125 players across Franklin County because of the efforts of our players, coaches, volunteers, and families to follow the safety protocols set forward by the state and our arena operator, FMC. Our families have been outstanding in following the safety protocols in place. We play teams based in Western Massachusetts, where people live in towns such as Longmeadow, Chicopee, Agawam, Amherst, East Hampton, and Westfield, just to name a few. And the arenas we primarily play in would be the same as the high school team, which would include Springfield, West Springfield, Holyoke, and here in Greenfield as well. I just want to share with you that it can be done as you guys pondered the decisions on winter sports tonight. Ice hockey can be played, and it can be safe for our children to participate. At FCHA, we've endorsed a strong commitment to safety, and I'm sure the same can be done at the high school level to give our children an outlet to play a sport they love while keeping everyone safe at the same time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We appreciate your feedback. Member Johnson Musad, anyone else?
Doug Selwyn.
Mr. Selwyn, go ahead.
Thank you. Doug Selwyn, Greenfield. Good evening. I'm very glad that the advisory committee for racial justice is on the agenda for tonight. Having a second school committee member assigned will allow them to get started. If we're really about justice, we have to stand up when injustice is what is before us. And that's what I want to talk about tonight related to the MCAS. The disparities in our community, the challenge for some families in dealing with internet and broadband issues, the challenges of families who have lost family members, who have family members who have had to continue to work on the front lines, who lack health insurance, the inequities in our society make it impossible to pretend that we have a level playing field. And those who will be most harmed are the ones who are always most harmed. And that is students of color, students living in poverty, ELL students, students with special needs, who I can't imagine are having their IEPs fully complied with from home. There are strong recommendations from 112 school committees around the state against taking the MCAS this year. And in fact, they've recommended suspending it for 3 years. There are no assessment professionals who would put any weight on the test this year, given all that has happened and is happening. There can be no validity or reliability in a test given during a pandemic. The state seems to be willing to spend $30 million that it spends every year on testing for a test that's worthless, that will raise the stress level on everyone in the district and will harm most particularly our most vulnerable students and families. So I urge that advisory committee to take a look at the MCAS, bring it to the full school committee, and have the school committee join with the other school committees around the state who are working hard to say no to the MCAS this year and for subsequent years. Thank you very much.
I didn't hear you, Chair
sorry.
Whitey, but we do have
Thanks.
another person, Ryan
Yes.
Cody.
Go ahead, Ryan Cody, go ahead. You have 3 minutes. Just state your name and your town you live in before you get started.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ryan Cody, and I'm a junior at Greenfield High School. And last year, I was a captain of the varsity basketball team at Greenfield. And I'm devastated to hear the news of our season being canceled. I missed our entire season last year due to an injury in the first game of the season, and this year will make it 2 consecutive seasons that I'll be missing. What was that?
Please go ahead. I'm going to mute whoever that was.
Oh.
Sorry about
I
that.
speak on behalf of the entire boys team by saying that we are not happy with the fact that basketball has already been delayed and we wish it to begin immediately. I know for a fact that every single player and coach wants us to be playing right now. And even if there were some of us who didn't, they would absolutely have the option to stay home and stay safe from the risk of COVID-19. Every single player knows the risk that they are taking before they step onto the court. So why are we not allowed to make the decisions for ourselves? You may think that this decision is to keep people safe, but studies have clearly shown that the virus does not affect younger people. We don't care if there are no fans. We don't care if coaches have to wear masks. And honestly, we don't even care if we have to wear masks while we're playing. We just want to play basketball. I've been playing basketball for Greenfield Public Schools since I was in kindergarten, and there are many of you on this board who I've never seen attend a single game. Since you are so distant from the student athletes at Greenfield High School, let me tell you what some of our players will be missing out on by being stripped of their season. Mason Meadows will never score 1,000 points. Katie Hazelton will never break the school record. Many of the seniors will never be able to go to the cage, never win Western Mass, and many of the other things that we'll never get to experience in a high school basketball players. These things may not be important to you at all, but to us athletes, we've dreamed of these moments for our entire lives, and these are memories that we will never have. Everyone in Western Mass knew that we were going to be the team to beat, which is why I know some of us worked extremely hard to get our bodies ready for the season. Almost every other school across the country is able to play basketball right now, but we can't. This whole issue has brought to my attention that the culture around Greenfield sports is completely dying because of the lack of concern for student athletes and their success. My friends and I from all across Western Mass have been playing basketball games safely for the past 6 months, and everyone in the world knows it. So why do you still deny us the right to play while representing our school? Canceling our basketball season is actually the worst thing that you can do for our safety, because if you cancel it, we will just be playing basketball on our own, hanging out with our friends, going to parties, and none of us will be wearing masks while doing so. So to think that ending our basketball season is doing anything is just stupid. I've still yet to hear one legitimate reason for why we should not be able to play competitive sports right now. Every single person knows the risk that is being taken before we step onto the court. So why do you still think that you know more than every athlete and parent in the Greenfield public school system? Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. We really appreciate hearing your comments. Anyone else for public comment from the chat? Member Johnson Musad?
Not in the chat, no.
I would like to speak.
There are, I'm sorry, I might have to scroll down. Let me see, we've got a little list here. Ron Lanoy?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Lanoy, go ahead. You have 3 minutes. State your
Thank
full
you. My
name
name is-
and where you live.
Sure. My name is Ron Lanois Jr., and I reside right here in Greenfield. Not only do I live in town, but I am the current head coach of the Franklin County Hockey Association, or FCHA 18U ice hockey team. This team is comprised of student athletes who would play for our high school hockey team. As Sean Lavoie earlier mentioned, the FCHA 18U team has been playing since September against youth organizations from East Hampton, Ludlow, Springfield, and the surrounding towns. With the Commonwealth's game restrictions, i.e. wearing masks, traffic flow, no locker rooms, etc., in place, we have not had a regular scheduled game canceled due to COVID-19, nor had any positive test results, even as town cases increase. You may recall the state shut down ice hockey for 2 weeks between October 23rd and November 7th. But that was because of increased linked COVID-19 cases. But I want to remind you that the governor's task force found those cases to be contributed to tournament, and after game activities. Out-of-state games with little to no restrictions, and organizations not allowing contact tracing. All of these items have been eliminated by the current restrictions. The task force found nothing to link the cases to actual gameplay itself. Ultimately, it comes down to the health and safety of our student athletes. If winter sports are not allowed to play, then think about the mental health of these kids. Children who play high school sports do it because they have a genuine love and passion for them. With no winter sports, these players would be forced into more isolation and be distraught over it. They need these outlets to stay mentally healthy. In conclusion, ice hockey has been and is currently being played in a safe manner with the in-place restrictions. I urge the Greenfield School Committee, like their Gil Montague regional counterparts, to vote in favor of having winter sports. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your comments. Member Johnson Musad, who's next?
This time there is no one left in the chat, but I would heard someone else's voice.
Okay, so we'll take anyone who wants to verbally be acknowledged for public comment. Don't be shy, just go ahead and step up and let us know, and we'll call on you.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Devin Kelleher. I would like to speak on
Sure.
behalf of, as an advocate for the Green Wave hockey team.
Go ahead, what town do you live in?
I live in Greenfield.
Okay, go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. So this letter is for the Honorable Mayor of the Greenfield of Massachusetts, Roxanne Wiedergartner, the school committee, and the Board of Health. I'm writing this letter and speaking out to advocate for the Green Wave hockey team and continued safe play. I plan to address the mental health of the athletes as well as the practices of safe hockey during this challenging time we're all navigating through. I would like to start by letting you know that I'm a hockey mom, and I'm part of not only a hockey team, but a hockey family. In the past years, there have been times where I see the hockey family more frequently than I see some of my own family. Hockey is not just a sport, it's a way of life. The current pandemic has shut down ways of life that are taking a great toll on many of us, and in particular, many of our children. They cannot spend time with friends, engage in normal everyday activities, and worst of all, many of them cannot attend school in person. This is impacting their mental health. The last shred of normalcy many of the players have at this time is hockey or other school sports. School sports are important for the following reasons. According to the Public School Review, there are 10 reasons why school sports benefit students. Without going into significant detail, those reasons include community representation, fitness, improved academics, the importance of the 3 Ps, persistence, patience, and practice. Teamwork and cooperation, positive mentors, social relationships, leadership skills, time management skills, success mindset. Many of these topics are seconded by the National Federation of High School Associations. This includes increased school attendance and increased GPAs, as well as mental and physical health. The National Center for Biotechnology, NCBI, National Library of Medicine, NLM, and the National Institute of Health, NIH, discuss the importance of the engagement in extracurricular activities for youth, which can decrease anxiety and depressive symptoms. I've had parents reach out to me explaining for the first time ever they're speaking with their children's primary care physicians about therapeutic services, medication, due to the overwhelming nature of change and lack of normalcy in their lives. As professionals and educators, we already know this information. The information I'm not sure you all know is that Massachusetts hockey, the Massachusetts hockey community, including the MIAA, MA Hockey, USA Hockey, PVIAC, EEA, and the Green Wave community have worked diligently to create safety plans, protocols, and guidelines to ensure the safety in continuing hockey. Many of the youth caregivers and coaches who participate in Green Wave hockey program are not new to this information. Since the start of the hockey season 3 months ago, we have abided by these rules. Our children have played on travel hockey teams, and safety has always come first. Some of the changes to youth hockey have already been discussed here tonight. Never did I think players would be gearing up for their practices and games in their cars and parking lots. They cannot go
That
into
was
locker
3
rooms.
minutes.
Together. Okay, thank you. I'm almost done. Can I finish?
Chair Prayati, you're on mute if you were trying to respond.
Go ahead and finish.
Okay, thank you. I know everyone is worried, and I understand this. I'm worried too. I'm not only worried about the virus, but I'm worried about the safety and mental health of my child, his friends, and our hockey family. These are amazing, talented, and great people. I ask you to please consider keeping hockey a part of their lives for the 2020 high school season. Psychiatrist Dr. Brock Chisholm, the first Director General of the World Health Organization, stated, "Without mental health, there can be no true physical health." Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. And can you just give us your name again, please?
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. We missed your name.
Yep, it's Kathleen Devin Kelleher.
Kathleen Devin Kelleher. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment? You need to speak up now.
Hi, Devin.
Any public comment that can't use the chat function? We'll also check the chat function one more time to see if anyone's indicated there.
Nope.
I'm not hearing anyone.
No one knew.
We are going to move on from public comment, and I'm looking for a motion from a school committee member to rearrange the agenda for the evening to have us next go with item 9, winter athletics, rather than item 4, committee reports. Can I get a motion?
So moved. Mayor Wiedegartner.
Second, Johnson Musad.
Great. Any discussion of that?
Chair Prayati, have you heard yet from our student representatives? And
I have not heard from any student representatives this evening.
Could you consider hearing from the student reps and then taking that amended item of business?
Oh, sure. I can do that. Yep. Are they on the line?
I know that Shane is here.
Great. Okay, so we'll go back to the that motion in a second. Let's hear from the student representatives. And are they speaking on something specific or just a?
I think this is a general update from the high school.
Wonderful. Great. And Shane, is there someone, Shane Toomey, is that who it is?
Yes.
And is there someone else with him?
I can't see our other student rep. I was expecting both of our student reps, but it may be that we have one student rep this evening.
Oh, there you are, Shane. Great. So you're on mute, but go ahead and unmute and we'll happily take your report. Thanks for being here.
Hello, my name is Shane Toomey. First, I'm going to talk about student council updates. So student council made a jam board for each staff member just to thank them for all they've been doing for the school and send positive messages through that. We also had a virtual spirit week prior to Thanksgiving break to boost everyone's spirits. And we're continuing our partnership with the Special Olympics, and we'll be starting the virtual Best Buddy program very soon. Updates from Key Club. We're happy to hold our annual GHS Turkey Trot remotely from Miss Moore and the Key Club, and Miss Moore and the Key Club did organize the annual Turkey Trot, and it went very well. We had a good amount of participants and started a Wall of Fame. Wall of Fame winners were sent certificates for their participation, along with 8 lucky winners who were drawn in a raffle. They received Dunkin' Donuts gift cards, and we look forward to a time when we can trot again together. The Key Club is always looking for ways to support Greenfield community, and we will be doing a drive-by food drop-off on Friday, December 18th from 3 to 5 p.m. Anyone interested in dropping off non-perishable food items can simply drive up to the front entrance of Greenfield High School and place in the food donation boxes. All food donations will be collected and directly donated to the Greenfield Salvation Army. GHS-TV, Mr. Lee Wolf and his GHS-TV class have published 2 editions of The Wave, an online media school website. Students have written articles as well as created videos, and all editions are posted on the GHS website, so feel free to check that out. And the virtual coffee house, so the French Club, certainly wasn't going to let remote learning stop them from hosting one of the most fun events of the school year, the coffee house. This year, however, students and staff had to videotape their talent and submit to the French Club so they could coordinate all of the videos into one online streaming event. This event will be streamed on Thursday, December 17th at 6:30 p.m. Be on the lookout for the YouTube link, get some popcorn, and enjoy the show. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. That was great. I have a question, though. What is a Jamboard?
So a Jamboard is like a virtual whiteboard almost. So different. So if you're allowed to have editing access, you can get a little sticky note or write directly on it. And so the way we used it is we had like a sticky note, like a virtual sticky note on the middle of it with the staff's name, and different students would just go in and write on a sticky note a positive message for the teacher. And we so that way teachers could go to their slide and see all the positive things students wrote for them.
Very cool. Thank you very much for that report. Are there any other questions or comments from school committee members? Awesome. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
Great job.
Thank you.
And thank you, Superintendent, for reminding me about that. I'd forgotten all about it. So next we'll try to take up that motion again to move item 9 ahead of item 4 on the agenda.
So moved.
That's the mayor. And a second.
Second, Johnson Musad.
Okay. And any discussion of that? Yeah, let's just go ahead and vote on it. Can you do a roll call, please, Member Johnson Musad?
Member Karen. Member Karen. Oh, and I see your lips moving. I see your mute is off, but I can't hear you. So I'm going to take that as a yes. Vice Chair Ekstrom.
Yes.
Okay, Member Hollins.
Yes.
Secretary Johnson Musad. I'm a yes. Chair Porietti.
Yes.
Member Wall.
Yes.
Mayor Wiedegardner.
Yes.
Motion carries. All in favor.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So we are on winter athletics, and I am hoping that we may have with us someone representing either the health department or the Board of Health. If anyone is on, can you speak to that?
Chair Proetti?
Yes.
I'm here. If you and I have information from Jennifer Hoffman, as does the superintendent. If you wish Ms. Hoffman to be on, she had something that she had to attend to this evening, but if you wish her to be on, I can certainly text her and have her come on for this discussion.
If you feel like you can answer some of the questions and help us with the discussion, we'll try that.
I think I can, but I know my limitations.
Okay.
And I told her to be on standby. I don't think we were thinking it would be this early, So just if the time comes, give me a minute, and I will see if I can get her away
So-
from what it was she had to do.
I would like also to hear just kind of introductory comments framing the conversation from the superintendent, if she so desires, and then also from Mike Kaczewski to give us a sense of where we're at before we move forward with making a decision. Before I give it over to the superintendent, I do want to say thank you to everyone that came to speak to this issue and who's emailed us about this issue. We don't take any of this lightly. You know, I did have a conversation earlier today over email with a school committee member who, you know, indicated that many of the emails we'd received were a little bit, I don't want to use the word accusatory because that is not the right word. That's too strong of a word. But there's this, it was brought up in a number of emails that we're not thinking about students and we're not thinking about student athletes when we make these decisions. And I can assure everyone that regardless of whatever decision is made, we spend almost all of our time thinking about the well-being, health, and safety of our students and our staff in the district. So I would not characterize what we're doing in trying to understand what regulations are in front of us and then make a decision to move forward or not with winter sports. Whether, you know, to equate that with whether or not we care about students. Of course, we care about students. We would not be serving on the school committee, trust me, if we did not care about students. And I'll leave it at that. And I would turn it over if Superintendent Harper has anything she would like to start with. We'll go ahead and do that. And then I'll pass it over to Mike Kaczewski.
Sure. So I'll just say that, you know, the winter sports season that our athletic director has put together a proposal for involves obviously hockey, we've heard a lot about tonight, but also basketball, girls and boys basketball. You know, this is something that's important to our students and our community. Our athletic director put together a proposal regarding it. And I think he's going to talk a little bit about the proposal. I do want to say that this is a challenging time because we, as a school district, have to defer to public health expertise and guidance, and in areas that may not be our first instinct or our first desire. So I do want to say that our athletic director, in communication with administration, school committee, and Board of Health, are talking about this tonight. And we want to have an opportunity to talk a little bit about what the proposal was coming into tonight and where it stands based on COVID numbers in our area. Mike, do you want to take it from there?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, so the last week has been very much of a whirlwind week in the athletic world. And you know, the proposal that I put together and sent last week has changed. It is based on phase 3, step 2 guidance from the EEA. And since all of this has happened, Governor Baker has rolled back, as we all know, to phase 3, step 1, which phase 3, step 1 in the latest guidance does say skills and drills and does not say competition. But there are other EEA guidelines out there that were given in October that, with proper modifications, that you can do competitions, and that's what other schools are right now going by. Late this evening or late this afternoon, I got an email, or I was in a meeting with the district athletic committee from the MIAA and the PVIC. And with new guidance that's coming out supposedly tomorrow or Friday by EEA guidelines, that's going to coincide with Governor Baker, things could change again. And so I basically am coming into this meeting wanting to play sports, wanting to play competitions, excuse me, with skills and drills, but I'm afraid that they're going to change again on Friday. And so I'm coming here. I mean, you can look at the proposal. I can give you the proposal on what the guidelines were when I did this. I can give you a proposal of what I think the guidelines are going to be. Again, as we've all known through this pandemic, things change constantly. And as I said, an hour and a half ago, they were different. And so, you know, I want our kids to play. I want our kids to play like the other schools. I want our kids to compete against those other teams. We can do it safely. We can do it competitively. But I think that we need, as not to say what you should do, but I think what I would like to have done is that we as a school committee approve that we get to get our kids to do something and revisit in January, early January. Let it be skills and drills. Let it be competitions. I mean, I think that's up to you. I mean, of course, I want to do competitions, but I also want to make sure that we have something for our kids to be able to do. We also are in conversations, as I said an hour and a half ago, that we're looking to push the date from January 4th to January 11th to make it, hopefully the metrics would go down as we get farther away from Christmas and the holidays. Because we all want this to happen. We all need kids to be in competition. We don't want skills and drills, but if that's what it takes to get our kids out of the house, get our kids active, get our kids involved again together, then we'd have to do that. Hockey will not be able to do skills and drills. Hockey does need to have the competition. They need to have the bubbles that we put them in as a PVIC. They need to compete. They just wouldn't. Our kids would also, you know, another point for hockey. Our kids, if they had no hockey, they would find hockey and they'd be traveling all over Boston and South Shore, North Shore. And so we're putting our kids more at risk by not having the hockey season than having the hockey season. So I know I'm all over the board. I'm east, west, north, and south, and I'm telling you that this is the way my life's been for the last 3 days, and I'm trying to put it all together and you know, get something for our student athletes to make our to make somewhat of a normalcy. And I hate using that word normalcy, but you know, who knows what that's ever going to be again. And every little bit that I can give to our student athletes at Greenfield is I'm going to fight for them, and you know, I want our school committee to do the right thing. I understand where Board of Health is coming through, but I also want to make sure that we're all doing the right things for our Greenfield community. I know the other thing is, does anybody have any questions on the proposal of, you know, the safety guidelines? What's asked of us, of what we do, or what we're going to do for basketball, what we're going to do for hockey? Does anybody? I mean,
I think we will. I think we will have questions, Coach. And what I'd like to do is, before we get to questions and discussion, have Mayor Wiedegartner speak to the Board of Health and the city piece of this, and then we'll get to the full complement of discussion. So thank you for that introduction. And you know, Coach, I will say you're getting a taste of what we felt like in August and September. We could not do any rollout of anything because every requirement kept changing. So I empathize a great deal. Mayor, go ahead and give us an overview, please.
Okay, I'd like to second that. Mike, welcome to my world in terms of being east, west, north, and south on a daily basis. And the last few days, which I'll explain in a minute, haven't changed that. In fact, I may have even discovered some new directions that don't exist on a map. So what I think would be best for me to do in the absence of Interim Health Director Hoffman is I will just simply read her latest letter that came out this afternoon about 2 o'clock with the Board of Health's recommendations. And I hope that it's something that you'll understand where it's coming from. So if you'll give me a minute, I did not print it out, so I'll just flip to that and read, and then make a couple of comments after that. To all, this is from Interim Health Director Jennifer Hoffman. To all, I followed up with the Board of Health this morning to discuss the recommendation from their emergency meeting yesterday afternoon prior to Governor Baker's recommendation to roll back to phase 3, step 1. Upon the Board of Health's review of the guidelines from EOEEA, and I do believe the school committee did receive those guidelines from this same email, and the input from multiple sources, the Board of Health's recommendation is to proceed with phase 2, step 1. Individual or socially distanced group activities, non-contact workouts, aerobic conditioning, individual skill work, and drills. I have attached the EOEEA, that is the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, Workplace Safety and Reopening Standards for businesses and other entities providing youth and adult amateur sports activities. The Board of Health stated that we are not allowed to make more lenient standards than the state. So if the guidelines could be met, it would be appreciated by the Board of Health. For reference, page 3 of the handouts defines higher risk sports as a substantial likelihood of routine, close, and/or sustained proximity or deliberate physical contact between participants, and a high probability that respiratory particles will be transmitted between participants. The athletic director stated that he would like to have basketball and ice hockey for the winter, both of which fall under the higher risk category. The guidelines and minimum standards for the modifications to play are found on page 4 of the guidelines. The Board of Health hopes that its recommendation will be satisfactory for the Greenfield Public School community. The Board of Health suggested that we can review in early January if need be, or adjust if Governor Baker rolls back further. Regards, Jennifer A. Hoffman, MPH, RVT, Interim Health Director. So I will come back on and resume my video. So for those people that are on the call and those people who thank you very much for your comments. Certainly Mr. Lenoy's, Mr. Lavoine, and Ms. Kelleher, and all the others, and the students in particular. So as you can hear from that, and I will tell you that when they made their first announcement, if they even did that publicly, which I don't believe they did, they had not received, it was early afternoon because they'd been asked to make a decision very quickly yesterday. In the interim, Governor Baker did what he did. So they revisited it today, and you just heard what their reactions were. And I have read it, and I certainly support the Board of Health. I find myself in that untenable position where I have to both think about the Board of Health, who is, if you're talking front lines, is definitely on the front lines, not necessarily in the care of people, but the care of the community and how we respond to the pandemic. And also being a school committee member, a mother of former sports player, field hockey, and also somebody who loves sports. So I don't find myself in a position that I wish to be in, but it is what it is. What we've been dealing with this week, especially from the Board of Health standpoint and from Director Hoffman, Interim Director Hoffman's standpoint, is a very rapid, very significant rise in COVID-19 cases within our community. It is not confined to nursing homes or a single family here or a single family there. It is within the community. As of today, our contact tracers and our Board of Health and our the people involved are working up, when I say that working up piece, more than 100 people. These are people that they know of in the community who may or may not have COVID, may or may not have been tested. But that is the level of which we are dealing with this very unusual for the city of Greenfield spike in COVID cases. And it does fall on the heels of Thanksgiving. For specifics, as of today, so from Monday to today, we have 39 new cases. So that's 39 new positives. Monday it was 10. Tuesday it was 11. Yesterday it was 18. We will not have tomorrow's numbers until tomorrow. So when they make this kind of a decision, they make it with the expressed intention of keeping all of you safe, all of the students, all of the parents, all of their families, all of their friends. So don't think they made that statement lightly. They are parents. Their children are older, with the exception of Ms. Hoffman. They understand. So I hope that we can have a rational discussion about, if you wish, about their recommendation as you go about making your decision this evening. And I think that's enough for now. And I will text Jennifer and see if she can come on.
Thank you, Mayor Rita Gardner. I appreciate that. So I know I saw Member Holland's hand, and I also see Member Ekstrom's hand. Let's do it in that order for questions.
I have 2 questions. One has to do with the ice hockey rink, which I don't think belongs to the school district. And my question is, we have a unique relationship because I think it is not the school district property. So my question about that is, what is our role in whether or not that facility stays open and functioning? And my second question is to the athletic director. If the sports were to continue, if that was our decision in some way and form, what shape, what is the protocol going to be should someone on the team test positive for COVID in either ice hockey or basketball? What would happen then?
Okay, so it sounds like maybe Mike, both those questions. Can you do both of those?
Sure.
Okay.
First one, I'm not sure, but the ice hockey rink is owned by FMC, which is a private entity out of Boston. So it is not controlled by the school. It has not it's not town property at all. It's a separate entity. We have nothing to do with that. We rent ice from them. So that's the only tie-in that we have. Our kids practice there, and we rent ice and play games from there. And then the second question was pertaining protocol. Talking to our school nurse briefly when we were doing this last week, is that if a case came across our team, that team would be shut down for 14 days.
Thank you. Superintendent Harper, would you add anything to that piece?
Sure, just that we would also follow contract tracing as appropriate and report to the Department of Education if they're school-related cases, and continue to refer to medical professionals and do that sort of referral to primary care and medical professionals that we have been doing. Our lead nurse has been involved in that heavily when people have questions and so forth, and that those are established protocols that Coach K was just talking about.
Thank you.
That's the educated version right there. I just say shut down for 14 days.
All good. They're both important. Member Ekstrom, go ahead.
Mayor, you had said that the Board of Health is recommending or wants us to return to phase 2, step 1?
Phase 3, step 1.
So I just want to make sure, because you had said phase 2. I was like, that's way different than what we're talking about.
Yeah. No, I don't know if I said that or not, but I read from the letter.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And so I absolutely am pro our teams getting back together, and the endorphins that are released when people are active, and the goodness from their mental health, the stress and anxiety release. I mean, I can't say enough things about sports and just overall health and well-being that are important. But as I'm reading through let's see. So COVID-19 order number 57, superseding and rescinding order number 54 that has been released about now that we're in phase 3, stage 1. And you can all read through this and it's boring, but I promise you'll fall asleep. Gatherings at event venues and in public settings. Indoor gatherings at event venues or in public settings are limited to a maximum of 25 people. So when I think about, let's say there was some competition, and I heard you, Coach, saying that you didn't think there could be any competitive games or anything like that. And I don't know the numbers on hockey, so I don't want to get into that. But just off the top of my head, for basketball, there would be 2 coaches per team, so that's 4. There'd be 2 refs, that's 6. Somebody running the scoreboard and all that stuff, that's 7. Plus 12 people per team, that gets you around 31 people in a building. And that, as a direct result of what this order is saying, is not something that can be done. Skills and drills, I think, is a great idea, and I would absolutely endorse doing skills and drills and readdressing this at a later time.
So can I answer that question for 25?
Sure. Yeah,
go ahead.
We're limiting our rosters to 10, and it's the playing floor itself for 25. So it's 10 on each team, 2 referees, and 2 score people.
10 on each team, meaning 10.
20, and then 2 referees is 22, and then 1 coach on each team is 24, and then the score people. So we thought about that too with the 25, and then it went out the window when we thought phase 3, step 2 came.
Yeah.
And now we're back to step 1 with the October modifications. It's a little different about that.
Right.
So that's why we're waiting for more modifications to come from the EEA, which are coming tomorrow or Friday.
Okay.
So we did plan on that, but the MIA has now, since they had a board of directors meeting today that cut rosters down, and we in the PVIC are even cutting them down even more. But we're believing that was the floor, but that was before step 2.
Yeah, I mean, this is, and because yes, the floor previously, I get that, but this is maximum. That's it.
And we wouldn't have any fans, so it wouldn't be any more than that.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
And when you say Western Mass teams, can I ask one more question, Amy? Is that all right?
Of course, yeah.
So when you say Western Mass teams, and this is me being crazy, and I know that, but so places like Chicopee and Holyoke and Springfield are having real explosions, and so I get a little freaked out about that. I don't have anyone who's playing sports, but I totally understand that, and so I will address it again later. But if we're doing skills and drills, let's do that.
So to answer that question, basketball would only play in the Franklin County bubble. We're only going to be playing like we did in field hockey. Ice hockey would be playing at 5 different rinks, which they've been playing since August. With the protocols that FMC has put forth, they're amazing. There's no crossing. People go in one door and exit out another door, one at a time. They can't go in until the kids are on the ice. The kids have separate areas to put their skates on. away from everybody, and at timely fashions, they are exiting the building and away from each other and going right to their cars. And there's no conjugating or anything like that in the parking lots. Those rinks are. Go ahead.
Are hockey teams limited themselves so that they don't go beyond the 25 people in a building?
In each rink, it is. No, I don't believe so, and it's only on the ice. It's not in the building itself, from what I've been told.
Yeah.
And with on the benches, they are on the benches 6 feet apart, because you can take at our rink, you can take the doors out and they have chairs, so they're always separated throughout the rink and never sitting right next to each other, especially for more than 5 minutes, because in the game of hockey, you're not having any more contact than 10 seconds with a kid. So it's a fast moving game. So the 25 rule is basically only on the floor itself.
I don't know.
Thank you.
I think we'll find out. Not that I'm anti by any means, but it says in public settings limited 25. I'm just.
This is member Karen. I'd like to speak whenever. Go ahead, Susan.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No. Go ahead, Katie. I'm all set.
And member Ekstrom, I'm going to have you moderate for a bit. Okay.
You got it.
Okay. If I could maybe jump in just ahead of member Karen.
Katie, you okay with that?
It's an explanation of phase 3, step 1, what's allowed for high risk sports.
Sure.
Okay. So,
thanks, Katie.
If I'm reading phase 3, step 1 correctly, and I think I am, for high risk sports, they are able to participate in level 1, which is individual or socially distanced group activities such as individual skill work and drills. The rest of the guideline says level 2 and level 3 play are allowed only if the minimum mandatory standards for modification to play are met. I'm not going to read you all those minimum mandatories, but they are in that document that was sent to you. But level 2 is competitive practices, inter-team group games, contact drills, and scrimmages. And level 3 is competitions, inter-team games, meets, matches, and races.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Katie.
Okay. So I want to ask a couple of quick questions to Mike. It's something that hasn't been mentioned yet, is that the kids, I believe, will be wearing masks the entire game, not taking them off. They wear them the whole time. I believe that I'm right about that. And I want to clarify, Mike, you think that it means 25 people participating in the event, not necessarily 25 people in the building?
I don't believe it's in the building. I believe it's on the playing surface.
Okay, but in your proposal to us is that we would have no spectators. It would only be the people participating in the event that
Correct.
are in the building. Okay.
Correct.
And hold on, I'll circle back, get my brain around there. So I'm hearing that the interpretation from the mayor and the Board of Health of phase 3, step 1 means, sounds like they are interpreting it to mean only skills and drills. But I know that across the state, many associations are running basketball and hockey. So I'm trying to figure out where the breakdown in our understanding of that is.
So I can kind of answer that because there was a document from the EEA that was put out in October. The August document that the mayor has in her hand, I believe, and I might be wrong in saying that, has been revised on October 5th, that states that high risk sports in level 3, phase 3, level 1, may participate in competitions with modifications. And what the COVID task force of the MIA and the EA did was make those modifications. So there's certain modification, and the sports committees of the MIA made the modifications to allow to be able to do those competitions. And that's, I don't have that document in front of me. It's on the EA October 5th or 2nd revision. And that's how I believe those other teams that are going to be starting on Monday are playing.
those EAA guidelines are approved by the governor, like they're submitted to him, or like it's not. I'm trying to understand. Sorry.
So I don't believe that. I don't know this again. I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but the EEA guidelines are put out for the governor to look at. I don't think the governor is writing them. Those are guidelines that the MIA is using to be able to put forth their athletics on the fields. So I know back when this was phase 3, step 2, when we got the November modifications, when we went to that, we were all excited because those phase 3, step 2, we were allowed to play football. And in those modifications. And so we didn't, of course, because we only did skills and drills from phase 3, level 1. But in the same modification of October, we were then allowed to be able to have smaller, larger cohorts because with the modifications that we put forth of washing the hands, masks, and distancing, that we were then allowed to do another step of the sport. So, and that's kind of the same thing that we're asking here is that, yes, we did go back to phase 3, step 1, but the modifications that were put forth allows us to be able to play in competitions. And I guess all I'm asking for is if we can revisit this when the new EEA guidelines come out, that we got to get a kids competition, but I mean, we want to do skills and drills, of course, to get them to do something, but especially on the ice hockey rink, that we have to have some competition because we're not going to spend all that money to be able to do skills and drills when the kids are going to do it anyways at their clubs. So
yeah, that's really important. I'm going to ask one more question. I'm sorry for monopolizing Coach K here. If we as a school committee tonight voted to give back to you with more after the guidelines, we get another vote, we call a quick meeting. I mean, we're meeting very regularly anyway. Could we, if we gave you a go ahead for, say, just skills and drills tonight, just to get them moving, get the word out there, get it going, and then you could come back to us with the new guidelines, do you think that would be worthwhile for us to do for you? Or would it be better if we have a true solid vote for competition and then roll back to only skills and drills? I'm trying to figure out what would make the most sense.
So, the most sense is I just got an email from the EA from the latest guidelines. The most sense would be able to get something. Now we're not talking about anything until January 4th start, possibly January 11th now. And so I like to be able just to have somebody vote on something to say, yes, we support you in doing the skills and drills with the possibility of having competitions as the metrics go down. I mean, does that make sense?
Yes.
That
I'm
answers
hoping
my
that
question.
go down. I mean, the way things are going, I get kind of nervous that they're not going down, but I think time is going to help us out in this sense.
Okay, I swear to God, it's my last question. Thank you, Susan. I'm sorry. So you said that we wouldn't start anything till January 4th, or we would start skills and drills sooner, and then competition couldn't start till January 4th.
No, January right now the PVIAC start date is January 4th for all sports, and then 10 days after that, competitions would happen January 14th and end on February 22nd.
Oh wait,
so
great.
So that is right now in the process of being talked about. And oh boy. So I got a wicked long document. So I'm going to have to break that down. But as I look at it, the new EA guidelines just came out, and it looks like the high risk sports are separated into different levels. Ice hockey, basketball, and ice hockey are considered high risk, but can participate in level 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to ask for competition then for your vote tonight, because the latest EEA guidelines state that we are asking for level 1, 2, and 3 competition to happen January 4th, if not January 11th.
Let's just wait 10 minutes and see if any new policies come out.
Yeah.
It just came off the hot. Somebody just sent it to me.
So, I want to be clear that when we're talking about the phase 1 or phase 3, what is it? I don't know, step 3, phase 1, or phase 3, step 1, whatever it is. The parameters being set are not the parameters that the school committee is setting. These are state parameters that whether you're a club or a public space, you have to adhere to. If not, the Board of Health will come in and close you up.
Correct.
And so when we're talking about clubs being open, regardless of what the school committee decides, if the school committee says, hey, we're going to do what the law says, and if it's over 25, and we have different interpretations, so whatever it is that finds out, 25 on the floor, 25 in the building, whatever it is. If the state says you can or can't do that, then we can or can't do that. And it's the same for everyone else. That has nothing to do with our thoughts. And
right, but as Miss Hoffman said elegantly, is that she said that they can not be more lenient. They can always do more for safety of our students, and I agree with that. That's what should happen.
Yeah.
Could I just interject a minute and say that
Sure.
that interim director Hoffman is on the call and she is willing to answer any of your questions or make any statements related to whatever she just heard, because I don't know exactly when she got on.
It could be
whenever you're ready to recognize her. And Mike, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I felt it was important that you know that.
And she has been raising her hand. Yeah. Welcome. Glad you're here.
Thank you. Hello.
Please speak.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me tonight. I am here to represent the Board of Health. My name is Jennifer Hoffman. I'm the interim health director for the city of Greenfield. So the new guidelines came out, and of course, the health department did not have time to review the new guidelines that just came out, Mike. So we have to look at that. The health department was informed of all these discussions pretty much last Friday. And the health department had to rush and look through all the state guidelines. And then there was a rollback yesterday, and we had to have another meeting. So the main issue is the Board of Health does want sports, and we do care about the youth of our community. And we understand the psychological impact that not having sports and interaction with other children has. The whole thing that we care about is the safety of our community, and not just with children, but with people of all different age groups. So our concern was, and we're not saying no, we're saying skills and drills we want kids to play at this point. We are saying that we're meeting Saturday morning at 10 o'clock in another Zoom meeting to go over any other new guidelines that come out. We're also looking at the metrics very carefully in the city of Greenfield. They are going up exponentially, and I think that needs to be considered. I think that January 4th is a great thought, but that's right after Christmas. And these numbers have jumped up dramatically after Thanksgiving. And I don't even want to think about after Christmas and New Year's. So I think we need to really consider that. The spread of this disease is widespread now. There is, no control in the community. I think that children playing are great. Most of the disease transmission has happened through hockey, and that's why hockey was halted for a period of time and had to get stricter guidelines on how hockey rinks are managed. I think that that needs to be considered. And even though there's new standards for hockey rinks and everything's being followed appropriately, we have to keep in mind that it only takes one slip up. We see that in hospitals, we see that in nursing homes, and we can absolutely see that in a hockey rink. I know that kids go home to their mothers, fathers, little brothers, little sisters, grandmothers, grandfathers. We don't know who's vulnerable next to you, next to me. And we need to keep that in mind. The health department and public health is for the greater good, not just one group. So when I look at these standards and when my health department looks at these standards, we think of everybody. So yes, indeed, we want the children to play, and we do want everyone to be happy and be athletic and have a great psychological outlook during this pandemic. But it's also, as the interim health director, and representing the city of Greenfield is to keep the whole city safe. So we are going to review these new guidelines, Mike, that just came out within 15 minutes ago. And I will make sure I look it up, and I will hand it to the chair, Nancy Bershon, and the rest of my board. And we will review it Saturday morning, and we will also review the metrics as they come. I don't feel hopeful that the numbers are going to drop by Saturday, but one could wish. So I don't have many answers to questions. Okay, I saw your chat. But I could try to answer them
Let
to the
me
best of my
interrupt you.
knowledge.
Let me interrupt you just for 1 second. If anyone is using the chat, that is not an appropriate use of the chat during a school committee meeting. We will not acknowledge those comments. Public comment is at the beginning of the meeting, and that's it.
Sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, I think I'm done.
So
thank you.
I just got another email stating that that was the latest EEAs. So the latest EEAs haven't come out yet. So I misspoke.
Okay.
Somebody was getting all in a tizzy and sending me things. Sorry.
But I have one more thing to say. I'm sorry.
Please go ahead.
I received, and I actually said to Jordana to please have any parent write letters, and I've had parents write, just so you know, for and against sports. So I've had a big outcry of how everyone wants sports, but I just want it to be known that there are people that are concerned also. So it's, so I just need everyone to be aware that there are two sides, and the health department, like I said, does care about the well-being of our youth.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Do we have a motion on the table, or are we still just discussing?
Just
Okay.
discussing.
I have a quick question, Member Karen.
That's fine. We are not clearly done with questions. I see lots of hands. Go ahead, please.
I find it. I'm really. First of all, it is very clear to me that the Board of Health does truly care about our community. I hear you. I see you. I absolutely believe that is true. I do have a question. I'm interested. I know you can't really reveal, but I would like to maybe have a percentage, because as a school committee, we've received no email about not running sports. Nothing.
Correct.
It's like a blank slate.
Yeah.
So I would be interested to hear just a number, a percentage, I don't know, something. If you could, I don't know what the rules are on that, but something, just if you could, Ms. Hoffman, just to tell me, yeah, I've received 4 versus 20. Not that I should, to be clear, I don't think we should be taking, it's not one of those things that's necessarily a majority vote of people, but we have not received any negative emails.
Understood. Obviously, there was a much larger outcry of having sports than people saying no sports. So, I mean, it was not 0, but it was not 10.
Very much. It was really important to hear what you had to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Member Karen. I see a hand from Member Hollins, and I don't have everyone on my screen, and then Member Johnson-Musad.
This is what I understand, and maybe someone will correct me if I'm wrong. I understand that at the moment, the school committee's taken no position on winter sports, although I've received letters criticizing our position. I'm not aware we've taken one. I understand that we must vote something, or no winter sport activity can take place, and we have to make that decision before January 1. I've never seen that written down, but that's my understanding, that we must take some action before January 1. And I understand that no matter what we decide, we're in a very fluid situation, like waves. You had a period of calm, and then we're going to get different guidance and rulings every few days, because that's what's going on. So whatever our decision is, it can't be, in my opinion, fixed. It's got to be fluid so that the district can carry on according to whatever guidelines flow in during the winter season. That's my question about the January 1 date, that we must make a decision. And my thought that if we do, it needs to be fluid enough that the superintendent can address changing directives, state directives. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Johnson Musad, go ahead.
I'd just like to thank everyone who's come to present and answer our questions, and appreciating the level of thought that everyone's applying to these questions. Jennifer, I wanted to ask some questions that are kind of based on some of the things we heard in the public comment, because I think I heard some things that may not actually be true in terms of just basic public health guidance around COVID that I think might be important for us to clarify. So my understanding is that young people absolutely can be infected with COVID and suffer negative health consequences from it. That's true, isn't it?
Yes. As a matter of fact, there in the summer there were I'm not remembering the name, but it was a children were getting specific arteritis disorders from COVID, and they have chronic long-term effects. They're saying that young children aren't really carrying it, but we're still seeing it in young children. We're seeing it in all ages right now. It's not just affecting 18 to 26-year-olds, even though that's the highest risk group that's affected at this time.
Great, thanks. And the concern, I mean, first of all, young people can be infected and affected, but also they can also be vectors of transmission to adults, including people who are at higher risk. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So when we make these decisions, I mean, it's terrible, because we may be forcing sacrifices from young people that can never be replaced. I mean, they'll never get the chance to play that season again or get that score, but it's to protect them, yes, and also the community at large. I guess the other thing is, one of the things I heard was that if we don't allow it here in this, if we have looser guidelines here in this school system, I mean, if we have more strict restrictions here in this school system, people will just go elsewhere and do things that are perhaps places that have looser restrictions. I'm not sure that that's necessarily true. I know there's some evidence in the field of alcohol prevention that when we have strict policies around alcohol, it doesn't actually cause young people just to go and consume alcohol in greater quantities elsewhere. They actually respond to adult strict policies. So I guess just the communication of restrictions and the reasons why does have an impact on young people and the choices they make. So I wouldn't necessarily assume that if we went with stricter restrictions in Greenfield, that they would go and do riskier things elsewhere. My other question, Ms. Hoffman, is the Board of Health has pretty strong powers in public health emergencies. And so one question I have is, how much of this power really rests with us as a school committee, or how much could the Board of Health just say, this is how it's going to be?
The Board of Health could only make recommendations.
Okay, great, thank you, that's very helpful.
Member Karen, I have a couple of comments
Member
and
Karen,
maybe
go
a
ahead.
motion. So to what Glenn was saying, yes, you know, we can't, some kids are going to make riskier choices, but if we do not play high school hockey or basketball, they will play on other teams. That is already happening. The other teams have offered to continue running all the way through the winter. Normally they would end when the high school season starts, but they've already announced to their players that if the high school seasons don't start, they will continue to play, and these kids are going to Boston and back. I'm not saying that should necessarily affect their decision, it's just the reality of the conversation. We did have to shut hockey down for 2 weeks, and one of the really important parts of that was where the cases that came from hockey were actually found. And I'm not a health expert. I did quite a bit of research last night. I reached out to some people trying to find more information. One of the main reasons that it got shut down was because people were refusing to allow contact tracing to happen, not necessarily because of cases. Someone already spoke to it in public comment, but the governor made a task force that looked into why all of these cases were happening. And the main cause was tournament play and out-of-state play, which has now been banned. And also that the cases were coming from people hanging out in the parking lot, not the kids on the ice. It was that people were continuing. Now, we cannot control the parking lot, regardless if we run a season or not. I'm not saying we should. We can try. That's what we're going to try. And by not having spectators at games, we are allowing the parking lot situation to kind of disappear because they're not there to stand around talking to each other. The kids on the ice or on the basketball court are wearing masks the entire time. And so it does change that. I hear the reality of our community transmission. I do hear it. I do want to be clear that I hear that. I don't know if we're in a place for emotion. I guess I could try and see how that goes.
Could I just make a comment about something you just said, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just want to be clear that even if it was spread from the parents and spectators in the parking lot, those parents and spectators go home with their children, and then their children get it and spread it to the team and grandma and grandpa, and I could keep going on. So I really don't care where it begins. The point is it begins somewhere and then it spreads. And that's something we need to consider. I don't care if it happened on the rink, if it happened outside, if it happened at the Big Y. The point is it happens and then the kids get it and spread it to others. And we need to remember that.
Thank you.
You are right.
Thank you.
It seems like I've got a couple of members who are interested in trying to make a motion, which I always appreciate before we do discussion. Sometimes, as in this case, we make a little bit of a leeway for discussion first. But who's ready to try making a motion? Member Ekstrom, and then we'll try Member Hollins. Yeah.
Well, I want to go back to Coach. You had said that you were looking for us to approve starting competitions on January 4th, and then you said you got a different email. What are you asking for at this point?
So right now, I would like to start skills and drills on January 4th and competition on January 14th. It possibly could move skills and drills to January 11th, and then 10 days after that, competition. Waiting on that.
And I did have a question, but I think it can wait until after the motion. So thank you for clarifying that. Who wants to try a motion? Was it you, Member Hollins, who want to try a motion? Try. You're on mute.
I'll try to give a fluid controlled motion.
Sure.
Notwithstanding a state directive to the contrary, to support a safely designed skills and drills winter sports program with competitions as can be allowed within safe guidelines, decisions overseen by the superintendent.
Okay. And Susan Farber, want to make sure you have what you need?
I sent it.
Member Hollis can repeat it, please.
Can you repeat it?
I wrote it out for you in chat. I'll repeat it.
Excellent, thank you. No, if it's in chat, that's perfect, thank you.
It's not in the chat.
I just sent it to
Thank you.
Susan Farber.
Oh, great, thank you. Okay, and do I have a second for that?
Second.
That was Member Karen with the second. And let's have some further discussion. I did have a question. And
The superintendent. Sorry.
Oh,
The chair can begin. I'll wait after the chair's question.
Okay. It's related. I mean, and maybe there are not even people here who can answer this. I'm confused about the FMC ownership of the hockey rink.
Mm-hmm.
And they're private, and it's private. So they have different rules. But everything I've read since yesterday about these changes, the rollback to step 1 of phase 3, indicates that hockey rinks should be closed. Is it because they're private? Do they have different rules? Am I misinterpreting that? What? Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
So it's not because they're private, it's because the mass hockey rules have come out, and there was a directive that came from Mass Hockey, and they run under the Mass Hockey guidelines of all the modifications that are put forth through the game itself. They're allowed to play. That's what we got for emails about Mass Hockey, and it's the same for all the other sports that they're considering. Back in the day when this all first started, there was no hockey allowed until modifications came in that stated no checking. Centers have to have face masks. So they came and made that proposal. EA then comes back and revises their stuff and said, okay, you can do this. So they did that. So then there was another revision. Okay, now everybody's got to have masks on. So there's been 3 or 4 different revisions to phase 3, step 1 over the course of the last 4 months.
Okay.
So the latest one was October 2nd, and that's kind of where the guidelines fall now from what the governor did, as far as I can tell.
Okay, thank
But
you.
regardless, whatever the governor indicates would override whatever the EAA or EEA, whatever it is, dictate, correct? Regardless.
Right, and he's rolled back from phase 3 to step 1, October 2nd guidelines, which state phase 3 high-risk sports can play with modifications.
But that was step 2.
Now,
Right?
step 2 is full.
Step 2 is full.
Step 2 was everything else. Phase 3, step 1, October 5th modifications. With
Yeah.
modifications, level 3 can play.
Yeah, there's more of that story.
Okay.
But again, this could be a moot point. Tomorrow or Friday, UEA guidelines could come out. So I would just like to be able to get a vote in affirmative to be able to say, okay, give these people an opportunity that let's either do January 4th skills and drills or January 11th skills and drills with competition afterwards, and then revisit it when the time comes. If the guidelines state for the state that we can't do it, we can't do it.
Thanks, Mike. Superintendent Harper, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm hearing from Coach K that what he needs is the go ahead to plan skills and drills for January, whether that's January 4th or 11th. I do want to say that, we heard it from Member Hollins. We heard it from our interim health director. This is a very fluid situation. So a state directive could very well change what the committee votes on tonight. But so too could changing COVID numbers in our community or a new Board of Health decision. The Board of Health could say, everything is looking peachy keen and things should start back up. So I think it's a little overly restrictive that it's only sort of notwithstanding a state directive. And I do think you want to be able to take into consideration the local guidance and the local numbers. As we're all seeing, this is about our community, our students, our parents. And I think what he needs is the go ahead to start with skills and drills, knowing that we all want to do more than that as soon as it's safe.
Thank you for that. Other questions, discussion? Member Hollins, is that a hand? Yep.
The reason I started the motion with notwithstanding a state directive to the contrary is there may be a state directive where it doesn't matter what anyone locally thinks. And the reason I ended it with decisions overseen by the superintendent is because I know there's a lot of concern about local directives and local numbers and everything. And I don't think it's possible for the school committee to keep weighing in, reviewing that. And I think the superintendent's highly in touch with all these issues and will oversee careful governance at the local level for our school district. So that's why I started it and ended it with what we can't control and the superintendent overseeing what we must address. I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
Personally.
Other comments or questions about the motion? Or any further discussion?
I have some more discussion and questions, I guess.
Sure.
I guess first, I wanted to check in with the coach and with the superintendent, whether the motion sounds like it gives you what you need.
Not exactly. I think it's a bit restrictive.
Yes, it is restricted. My original proposal was to start, practice on January 4th and then play our 10 games within our community bubble and have middle schoolers also in on it. And, again, that was the high and mighty, but, now I want to get what we can get for our JV and varsity programs. And, with the skills and drills to start and then go into competition is the best way to see that.
That's what the motion allows, just to clarify.
I do think the motion allows that. Can either of you indicate what would make it less restrictive, either the superintendent or Coach K?
Well, I mean, it's less restrictive because I believe in the proposal, I did talk about having fans. I did talk about having what was it, more people on the bench, and we have to cut that down. It was also middle school participation was also on there too, the original proposal, but I'm not asking for that now.
So in terms of the motion that's on the table for the school committee to vote on right now, would you, are you comfortable with that, or would you, are you looking for something else from us in terms of a vote?
I'm just looking for varsity and JV basketball and hockey participation in skills and drills and competitions when time allows.
Yeah, so that's what the motion has. Okay, and Superintendent Harper, was there something you felt like was too restrictive?
Sure. I mean, I think I've already stated that the only exception here is state directives and not any changes in our local data. That's of some concern to me. And I'm not sure that there is a precedent for this decision to be overseen by the superintendent. We have enacted all of these decisions coming back to the committee. I think you've heard it from Coach K and Director Hoffman that it would be appropriate to revisit this if the data changes or if the governor releases something new. I think the Coach K needs to be able to begin. So we can give a go-ahead for January, knowing that it's fluid, and if something changes, that we'll revisit it. Knowing the number of public comments that were made and the extensive community involvement, I personally would be uncomfortable if this decision didn't ever come back to a public forum like this, and there was a decision made on people felt that they didn't understand the process because it wasn't made in a public meeting. So I'm not personally comfortable pushing it into administration. I think this is an appropriate venue for the school committee to take up these issues.
Okay, thank you.
Question?
Yep, go ahead, Member Hollins.
I have a question. If the motion says that the superintendent is overseeing this, isn't it within the superintendent's discretion in overseeing it to bring it back to the school committee? I mean, I don't know how detailed, I don't mind if the motion changes. I just don't know how detailed it can be for every little thing. The superintendent works with the chair on what comes to the school committee, and that's always part of overseeing everything, isn't it? Anyway.
How about offering a friendly amendment to the motion for the school committee to continue to be involved in decision-making rather than the superintendent? Would you accept that friendly amendment? Okay. And Susan Farber, if you have what you need, we'll move forward with our discussion.
Just to clarify, we are striking decisions overseen by the superintendent?
Correct, in favor of decisions being referred back to the school committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have what I need.
Thank you. Further discussion from the school committee or Health Director Hoffman, Coach K, the superintendent, anyone?
I guess actually that kind of came out of my asking my first question. So if you don't mind, I can kind of pick up where I was.
And then the mayor after you, Member Johnson Musad. Go ahead.
And, to be frank, like, I'm just really appreciating the opportunity to have Ms. Hoffman here. And so this question is, it's connected to this issue we're deliberating, but it's a little bit broader as well. But Representative Mindy Dahm is pushing for the state to do a better job in terms of contact tracing back to school systems. I guess there's some concern that the contact tracing that they're doing does not always show any transmission that may be happening within the school system. I just was wondering if you know anything about that, and whether you feel like, for example, would you feel that if there was transmission that happened at a sports event, that we would be able to trace it back? Or is there something, is the contact tracing not always adequate to pick that up if something is happening at a sporting event?
That's a really good question. One of the things we had over the summer for baseball and softball and other hockey, I mean, I have hockey on the brain and other sports, is people had to basically sign like a sign-in sheet when they were asked the questions, like if they have any fever, if they've been around anybody. One of the things they would do is put in a sign-in sheet, and they would put the people that are at that game with them. So we would have a name and a phone number at all times. If, let's say, Joe Smith became sick, we could look up Joe Smith's name and who was with him and start that way. However, on that note, contact tracing is only as good as the information we get and how compliant the people are that work with us. So if someone is not going to be compliant with giving us information, or someone's not going to follow quarantine, there's not much we can do, except maybe with some help we can get enforcement from the police and maybe a fine. So as for your question, if we have sheets saying who's at the game, who's at the event, a way to contact the people, like a phone number, that really does help us narrow it down, saying, hey, were you around Joe Smith? How long were you around Joe Smith? And so on and so forth. When it comes to schools and contact tracing, that's a little bit different because there's age requirements and information about passing on people's medical information, and plus also considering not causing a panic among other parents and teachers and so on and so forth. So we have actually a pretty set guideline in Greenfield about what is done when someone is sick. As for other schools in the area, I mean, the nurses work very hard, and they basically they speak with the local health departments in their area and work closely with the public health nurse and try to keep that information. We let the people that need to know. But it's not everybody's business to know if you're sick. Just like if someone's HIV positive, it's not everyone's business to know if you're HIV positive. There's a right to privacy. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Glenn, did you have any more questions? Were you done? Okay,
so can I follow up on that?
Oh, sure. Coach K, go ahead.
So all fall, we did do that. When we had competitions with field hockey, each team would bring in a roster of the kids who were there. We had COVID coaches that would take temperatures of both teams, ask them all the questions, and have everybody written down who was there. So we have that filed. Well, not fall anymore. We got rid of it, but we would have that held on to for the whole few weeks or what have you, and documented everybody that was there. When we had fans, we did allow that fans at the last couple games, they had to sign in and what kid they were with. So we had documentation that way. We didn't ask for any phone numbers because we felt that was a little bit too personal, but we knew who they were because they were our fans and we could easily get a hold of them. So we are doing that. And that was one of the things that we will be doing is roster exchanges to make sure who's there and what have you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mayor Wiedegartner, please go ahead.
Mayor, you're on mute. Now I'm off. I think Mike, you did state that you were looking for competitions within our community bubble. Am I clear? Am I correct in what you said?
Yes.
Okay. I just what concerns me about that, it's not so overly concerning that I can't consider this motion in its entirety, but what I just want to remind you that what both Interim Director Hoffman is saying and I am saying is that unfortunately that community bubble is getting very compromised with cases. So let me try to understand it by asking you another question. Who are you considering your community bubble, and how would that literally play out, I guess?
So we would have an 8-9 game schedule. Once we figure out who is going to be allowed to play, and it would be Franklin County teams plus Smith Academy and Hopkins Academy. They're like-sized teams. With everybody that we consider in Franklin County, all the way to Athol, all the way to Mohawk, Turner's, Pioneer, Franklin County Tech, there's 10 teams, 9 games. We play each other once, and that would take about 4 or 5 weeks.
Okay.
So I mean, and we would travel out of those, 4 or 5 games with those teams.
And they would be coming into Greenfield as well.
4 or 5 games, boys
Yeah.
and girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Further questions, comments, discussion? I'm not hearing anything. I think we are ready for a vote. Does anyone from the school committee want the motion read before we move to the roll call vote?
Yes, please.
Yes. So, Susan Farber, can you read the motion for us, please?
Yes. The motion is that notwithstanding a state directive to the contrary, to support a safely designed skills and drills winter sports program with competitions as can be allowed within safe guidelines, and for the school committee to continue to be involved in decision-making.
Thank you. And that's the obligatory cat through the screen.
Not a Zoom until.
The cat showed up. It is blocking the speaker.
Would you do a roll call vote?
Sure.
May I ask a clarifying question?
Sure, sure.
I'm just trying to understand, I think I understand the intent of this. If numbers change significantly in Greenfield, with this current motion, I'm trying to understand what the impact would be. So as I mentioned, if let's say there's no change in state directive, but the numbers in Greenfield change significantly, is it the committee's intention that they would revisit that?
I think the motion leaves it open to revisit at any point that we're asked to revisit it. That's my interpretation. Anyone else want to say something different?
That was mine as well.
Yeah, I think that's correct. I guess what troubles me a little bit about the motion is that there's no date attached to when you would want to begin competitions. I think I heard you say January 11th or 14.
Well, because they're waiting for updated state guidance. Is that right?
So the PVIC and the MIA has stated 10 days after the first date. So we're either going to start January 4th or January 11th. From my meeting this afternoon with the DAC, I feel that will probably be pushed to January 11th would be a start date, and January 21st would be a competition date.
Any further clarification? Member Hollins, you're on mute. Go ahead.
I could be wrong. I just don't see where the school committee motion should have that level of detail if it gives a go-ahead for safe programs.
From Brady or from another dog?
Hold on.
Who knows?
The phrase safe
People, if
program.
you're listening in, you got to be on mute. I don't know who that is.
Who knows?
There we go. Hang on.
You can mute them all.
Sorry. I can't mute them all because then I mute you and everyone
Okay, I can unmute.
I believe once we make this motion, it goes into effect as soon as we vote. So
correct.
Today is early December. Anytime from now until winter season, we are authorizing a safely designed program within state guidelines.
So I'll just reiterate my concern, and then the committee is free to vote. This is not something that I can vote on, as you know. To me, the phrase safe guideline is very vague. We've heard from a lot of people tonight talking about their opinion of what is safe. We have the Board of Health and the health director weighing in, and yet there's still a lot of discussion about what constitutes safety. So my advice on this is that it's going to invite this type of discussion again on an ongoing basis. It doesn't tie it to any particular authority of our Board of Health or our COVID data, or even who is the decision-making authority. Personally, I would recommend that you get a little clearer about what constitutes safety, or that you revisit. There's some trigger about when you might revisit this. There's a lot of background, I apologize. I'm happy to bring this back forward, but this motion does not make it clear to me if the committee is asking me or the Board of Health or someone else to bring information back, or if that's on the athletic director. I just want to say that I think there's a lot of public interest in this. We all want our kids to play as soon as it is safe. The question is, what does it mean to be safe? All right, as a country, we're struggling with that. And certainly Greenfield is part of that as well. So I think a little clarity might just be helpful to the community listening in about what does that mean? Does that mean we're going ahead with competitions? Does it mean we're revisiting it with the new state data in a couple of days, or somewhere in between?
I appreciate that. In my view of this, I think that the way we've approached it allows us to revisit it anytime we want, and to respond as appropriate when it's brought to our attention by the superintendent, by the athletic director, by the Board of Health, by the health director, by the mayor. We are in a position where we're being asked to say yes or no to something that none of us know exactly how it's going to unfold. And as Coach K so eloquently put it, this could all be out the window in a day or two, or in a week, because of different guidelines, and certainly because of different numbers. I am not comfortable with the school committee being tied to certain trigger points when we've left it open that we can revisit it at any time, and we're meeting every 2 weeks. That should, I think, be responsive enough. Coach K, please. You're on mute.
Sorry. I thought I was. To get over this hump, whenever something comes out, I'd be glad to send it to everybody. When there's a new guideline that comes out that pertains to athletics, I'll send it. And you can make the decisions of what you want to do with it. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's going to be out there, and I can just send it.
Well, that's and we appreciate more information is certainly going to be better in this situation. What we also clearly need, I tried to make heads or tails of all of this stuff. I heard news reports from 3 different sources about what was closed and what was open in the past 24 hours, and I couldn't follow it. And even, you know, as your proposal that you prepared for us that was great was out the window before we even got to vote on it. And you know, I think to be able to revisit, knowing that we're meeting at least every 14 days, an open-ended motion feels okay to me, but that's the personal opinion. Mayor Wiedegartner, did you want to speak?
No.
Okay, Member Hollins, go ahead.
I just have one last comment. I've heard I don't think anybody knows what's safe, how it's transmitted, what the effect is, who gets it, who carries it, I just think nobody in the world seems to have the final decision on any of this. What I think we could do, in addition to a broad, fluid motion, based on a lot of detail I've heard tonight, like the role of our local health department, that we absolutely have provisions for quarantining and tracing, that everybody will wear a mask. There was just a lot of detail about how we're going to structure whatever we do. We could ask that there be a regulation for any kind of sports activity in the district and put all those very specific pieces together that we know would be followed. But our motions, it's really hard to have motions with that specificity. I agree with you, in a situation where nobody can define anything really. But I don't disagree with the superintendent. I think all of that would maybe best fit into a regulation that guides whatever is happening.
Chair Poetti,
Go ahead.
I call the question.
The mayor has called the question. We move to a roll call vote.
Great.
Member Johnson Musad, please.
The roll call vote is on whether to call the question. So a yes is we're gonna answer this
Yep.
question now and start
Correct.
discussing. Okay. Member Karen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ekstrom,
Yes.
Member Hollins,
Yes.
Secretary Johnson Musad. I'm a no. Chair Proietti,
Yes.
Member Wall,
Yes.
Mayor Rita Gardner.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. So we will call the question. We will end discussion and we will move to a vote on the original motion.
Member Karen,
Yes.
Yes.
Member Hollins,
Yes.
Secretary Johnson Musad. I'm a yes. Chair Proietti,
Yes.
Member Wall,
Yes.
Mayor Rita Gardner.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you all for all your hard work. Thank you to Health Director Hoffman for joining us and answering so many questions. I know it was late notice and I appreciate it. It sounds like we'll become fast friends very soon. And
We meet every Thursday. We can keep you updated.
Oh God, please, please no.
we'll do our best to accommodate, and Coach will do our best to accommodate when and if you need to return back to school committee meeting, we'll do like we did and do it all at the beginning. And lastly, I want to thank everyone who has listening in and participating and sending comments and helping us to make a decision. And it sounds like we haven't heard the end of it, so stay tuned. Thank you all.
Thank you
Stay
very
safe.
much, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, stay safe.
Health
and be well.
Director can go about her business now, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Health Director.
Okay, so we are going to go back into the agenda in order. We'll move back to item 4, which was
Vice
committee
Chair
report.
Ekstrom would like your attention, Chair Proietti.
Oh, you're on mute. Go ahead.
The question is, in the past, that we had
Oh, hang on a second. Go ahead. You had a lot of echo. Go ahead.
in the past, we have talked about ending our tabling things because we meet so often. If we have gotten past a certain point, I don't know if that's a discussion that we want to talk about. I don't know if it's even applicable. We have done that in the past. That's okay.
Yes, I do not mind. You're welcome at any point that we are moving into another part of the agenda to make a motion to adjust the agenda as you would, as is in your interest. Are you planning to do that now?
I am just reminding people that that is something we do have at an executive session to take care of, and I'm not that anything isn't important, but we are meeting so often, so perhaps there are things that we want to table. That being said, December, do we want to have another meeting? I don't know. I'm just saying.
Okay. Like I said, if you want to interject and make a change, please do
Okay.
so. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're into committee reports. I, as the chairperson, do not have a report this evening. We'll move to the superintendent's report. Superintendent Harper, please go ahead.
I would like to begin my report, if I might. Is it possible that everyone who's on the line, especially those that are calling in, could just make sure you're muted? There's just an awful lot of feedback on the line. It's hard to hear if you're speaking.
I think I fixed it. Everyone's on mute except for the school committee members.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. I was actually wondering if we might begin the superintendent's report, if it's appropriate to just take a moment of silence and acknowledge that we have lost longtime counsel to the Greenfield Public Schools with the passing of attorney Peter Smith, who has served the students and particularly the special education students, parents, and community of Greenfield Public Schools for many decades. And with appreciation, to take a moment of silence. Thank you. I appreciate that. I would like to begin my report by stating that with the committee's support and vote, we entered phase 2 of our in-person learning last week. And I could not be more proud of our teachers. I'm very grateful to our principals who have been working really around the clock to prepare our buildings. We were preparing for students coming back since we closed. It was a long stretch of time from last March to this December, and boy, was it good to see those little people back in the building, some not so little, from pre-K up through high school. And our students are spread out throughout our buildings, so our concentration of people in any part of our buildings is low. Our health and safety guidelines are in place. I would like to particularly thank Pam Owen, our lead nurse. She has absolutely been working tirelessly around the clock. We've heard quite a lot from our health department earlier today, but our school department nurses have been heroes as well in coordination with the public health folks on the city side. And Pam in particular is very regularly in communication with me through nights and weekends, working with our facilities, maintenance folks, principals, special education department, transportation, food services. Everybody's working together to make that happen. It was really terrific to see those students back, and we wouldn't have that without the support of the parents. Thank you to those of you that are in phase 2. You got a lot of phone calls. There was a lot of moving parts. I think you probably heard a lot of different things as it evolved over time. And students have settled into a pretty good routine. So I really just want to celebrate that the goal that the school committee set has been met. And it was a very important marker, and we feel it is absolutely the right thing. So at our last meeting, I thank those that were on the negotiating committee for making that a reality. And today I just want to acknowledge that that is in place, and to thank everybody that is making that happen, particularly our teachers and IAs in the building that are doing such a terrific job with our students. We have had changes in the COVID metrics, as you all have heard, and we are continuing to keep a close eye on that to make sure that those students that are in our buildings are taken care of very well, and that we're taking all appropriate precautions. When we received new updated numbers from the state late Thursday night last week, heading into Friday morning, they come out once they come out on Thursday evenings, well past business hours, usually around 8 or 9 p.m. And then we review and take any appropriate actions. You heard from the health department that they were contacted last Friday as well, as an example. So we're taking precautions. We are upgrading some of our filters. We are installing new HEPA filters in additional spaces. It's important to note and for the community to understand that some of the students in this phase cannot, for medical or other reasons, wear masks. So they are in our buildings, not always wearing masks. We've all come to kind of understand the precautions and the level of safety that that provides. But a number of the students in this particular phase aren't able to engage safely in that way. So we have other precautions staff are taking. We've had them all trained in PPE and additional personal protective equipment. For example, they might be wearing a face shield with an N95 mask. They're working with a student who's not able to wear a mask of their own, put additional ventilation in that room as an example. But it's important for folks to understand why this particular group of student needs to be really spread out in a different way than you might approach bringing in the whole school population as well. We have put in an additional mask order, and we're doing all this with this sort of hopeful idea that we're going to continue moving through our phases, right? Best intentions. But of course, looking at newer data, it's always a dance between the goal of bringing back all of our students and adjusting in real time to what is happening in our community and responding, as you saw with the governor, for example, rolling things back. So I think that that's all I'll say about that phase and how it's going. And again, just tremendous appreciation to the community. I also want to say that while we continue to hear from some folks that are eager for their students to return from remote to in-person in coming phases, that we also continue to hear from some folks who are just really thriving in the remote learning environment. I want to just say that our teachers are continuing every day in their remote work. We hired a remote learning specialist with the support and vote of this school committee. That person is now supporting our teachers across the district. Rachel Cummings is a teacher that was working as a tech teacher previously and doing a lot of training, applied for and was hired into the remote learning specialist for the district. So we now have somebody dedicated to supporting our teachers and excelling with their remote teaching. And one thing in closing, I'll note that the Commissioner of Education recently released or is in the process of releasing reviews of everyone's remote learning plans. And they essentially are auditing how much time teachers are providing live instruction versus asynchronous instruction. And I think Greenfield got this right out of the gate this fall. We really took all the feedback we learned from the spring, and teachers are giving it their all. And they've been really engaging with live instruction right from the beginning, whereas other districts are really having to make pretty significant adjustments to come up to closer to time on learning requirements. As you remember, that was a big part of our planning. So I just want to give a shout out to our teachers. Just because we're in remote, they are not coasting, they're working hard. And those of you at home that are supporting your students, despite the challenges, they're very real challenges, and we know that. And we want to thank you for making it as productive as it can be on your end, and for the teachers doing the same. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm also equally impressed. As you know, I'm doing second grade again, and the instruction has really been fantastic. So I can attest at least to a handful of teachers and IAs that I interact with that's really been top notch. Any questions or comments for the superintendent on her report?
I have a few comments.
Please, Member Johnson-Musad, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank you, Superintendent Harper, for giving us the moment of silence to recognize Attorney Smith. And I had the opportunity to go to the Shiva and hear your remarks there, and just the relationship that you and he had, the working relationship. I know it's a loss for all of us, but in particular for you, and just want to acknowledge that. Thank you for taking the time to be there and to support the family and to share that moment of silence with us. Also, I'm just impressed, that, the teachers could get a doctor's note and say, I have a reason I can't be in school, whatever. But they're showing up in these situations where the young people can't be wearing the mask. And I just think it's just a testament to the level of caring and commitment that the teachers have, that obviously the precautions that they're taking are important, but they're not fail safe. And so there is a risk they're taking every day they come into those classrooms. And just please extend our appreciation to them for what they're doing. It's making a big difference to those families.
I certainly will. Thank you very much.
Very well said, Member Johnson-Musad. Thank you. Any other questions or comments for the superintendent? Okay, I do think we at least had a report from subcommittees.
Do you have a report, Chair Poyetti? Chair's report.
I already bypassed the chair's report. I have no report tonight. We're going long enough. You don't need me to be squawking at you. Subcommittee reports. I know Member Wall, you wanted a report from, was it Planning and Construction? Is that right? Capital improvement.
I have two reports. I want to say that we're having a redrawing meeting, subcommittee meeting tomorrow at 2. And so if anybody would like to join us, please do. And I also have been asked to serve on the committee to review the RFPs for the Green River School heating system. And I wanted to let you know that we had 5 submissions, 2 of which have been discarded. So there are still 3 people that want to work on this project. But the heating system will not be completed until probably September.
Wow. That's a big change in the timeline.
Yep. And I'll keep you informed. We've still got to choose a contractor.
Sure.
We've got the whole process to go through, but I thought you should be aware of that.
Thank you. Does that complete your reports?
Yep.
I think that's the most you've ever talked in a meeting. Good job. Proud of you. Any
was
questions?
scary.
Any questions or comments for Member Wall on her reports? Any other subcommittees need or want to report this evening? Okay, so we will move into.
It looks like she was dying to say something. She leaned in.
She's on mute. I don't know. Mayor Rita Gardner, did you have something to say? No. Okay, so item 5 on the agenda, appointment of a second Racial Justice Advisory Committee member. This is going to be, my appointment is going to be member Katie Karen, who expressed interest very early on. And I did check in with her that she is willing to serve. So the committee will be member Johnson Musad and member Karen. And it is an advisory committee, just as a note, so there will be public involvement in that committee. And I look forward to you guys getting started and letting us know how it's going, keeping us up to date. Any discussion, any questions, comments about that? Quickest item ever, right? Okay, so item 6 is school committee web page content changes. Hopefully this one will be kind of quick. There is in your packet, I believe it's materials 1, the first, yes, and it is page 5 of that packet if you didn't already look at it. The language on the landing page for the school committee is a little outdated. It talks about us meeting at the John Zahn Center and whatnot. And so I quickly, as soon as I saw it, made an update and then was informed we have a policy that has to come to the school committee to be approved. So I would like a motion to approve the updated language as proposed in the materials for this evening. Hopefully everyone read it. Motion, anyone? That was member Wall with the motion and a second.
Second, Johnson Musad.
Okay, any discussion?
I appreciate the update, and I think it gives people more information about different ways to connect virtually. So really appreciate the work on that.
Thank you. It was not a lot of work. It was very quick, but it needed to happen. Any other questions or comments? So we could vote on this then. Roll call vote, please.
Member Karen.
Yes.
Vice Chair Ekstrom.
Yes.
Member Hollins.
Yes.
Secretary Johnson Musad, I'm a yes. Chair Poyetti. Member Wall.
Yes.
Mayor Wiedegardner.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Wonderful. Thank you. And so now we have 2 items related to open meeting law complaints that were with the school committee. One has already been resolved, and that's item 7. It is included in the packet of materials, packet 1, and we received it on October 30th. We already met and discussed it in an executive session and felt like it should actually be brought to a public session. So basically, the wrong link was on an agenda page for a meeting that we had, and people had trouble accessing because the link was incorrect. We have drafted a response and sent that response to both the complainant and the Attorney General's office as required by law, and those are included in the packet tonight. I will happily take any discussion or questions from the school committee on this, should we have them. We did have a very, I think, very productive discussion, and one of the things that came out of the discussion we had actually is on, you can see it on the agenda for tonight's meeting, that we've added a footer at the bottom of every agenda that includes the various ways you can connect to a meeting of the school committee. Anything else on that?
Yeah, I would just say the public should also know that there's a way to sign up on the school committee school's website to get updates about events, including school committee meetings. So there are lots of different ways to kind of keep in the know about what's going on.
Thank you. Yeah, that is an important one. If you, and that is in the footer as well on the bottom of the agenda. You can subscribe to updates right from the GPS, the landing page. And for example, when an agenda is posted for a meeting, you would actually get an email if you're subscribed to get those notifications. So it's kind of convenient to help you know when meetings are happening and what's going on. Any other discussion on that one? Okay, so now we have another open meeting law complaint that we are going to actually deliberate tonight. We got a complaint on November 17th that we need to respond to that is in, again, the packet. And I will read portions of the alleged violation so we can have a discussion and decide how to respond. So the complainant writes, at the school committee meeting on October 14, many people attended with the intention of speaking during the public comment period at the beginning of the meeting. Before public comment began, Chair Prietti proactively declared the committee would allow only one comment specifically in support of increased racial justice funding and programming. She seemed to suggest everyone who was there to speak in support of this particular issue should somehow immediately choose a single spokesperson that could communicate instantaneously, none of which was true. I believe many individuals did attend the meeting that evening to speak in support of increased racial justice work in the schools, each for their own reasons. I'm aware it may be up to the chair to determine how much space is allowed for public comment and generally to direct the meeting according to the agenda. But it is not in the spirit of the law, I believe, nor of open meeting rules to specifically limit public comments on a given issue. Moreover, for a white person in a position of power to proactively reject and restrict public comment, specifically regarding racism and racial justice in our schools, was shocking and racist. I believe this decision by Chair Prietti violates the spirit of open meeting law. So what we need to do is actually discuss as a school committee and draft a response. So I'm happy to start. The first thing that I would say is that for, I believe, 3 meetings prior to the one in question, we spent a great deal of time in public comment hearing almost identical comments from people in support of anti-racism programming in the schools. And I did not once hear in all of those meetings anyone saying they thought it was a bad idea for us to do anti-racism programming. And the reality of this is we didn't violate the open meeting law. This chair, it's at the discretion of the chair how public comment works. And we need to be able to move forward with the business of the school committee. So that, I think, would be my full comment on that. Are there other discussion items, questions? Mayor Wiedegartner, go ahead.
I just wanted to reiterate that in my experience, and I've had quite a bit in public hearings, both as a school committee chairperson and as a planning board chairperson. And it is, there are 2 things that stand out that the public, particularly the ones who are bringing this complaint, need to understand. And that is that the school committee is free to create their own policy about speaking to items only on the agenda. And that is our policy, and I think it's been our policy for a long time. It was certainly the policy when I chaired the school committee a few moons ago. And that is the policy of the planning board. It is the policy of almost every public-facing board that does do public hearings. So I'm in agreement that we did not violate the open meeting law with that. The other thing I wanted to say is also supported by law, case law, that it is the purview of the chair to control how public speaking does occur. So these are cases that have come before adjudicatory bodies in the past, and they, as a general rule, have always supported the committee so named. So whether it's school committee, planning board, ZBA, any of those. So I support it, and I support our continuing it, because while it's important to hear from the public, as we did tonight, and we had, as you know, well over an hour of between public comment and discussion on this single issue. That I lost my train of thought. That we keep to that policy, because we have business to do. It isn't that we come together on these every other week just to hear from the public and then fold up and go home. We actually have actual business to do, and we can't have public comment that goes on and on and on forever without some control on when it begins and when it ends. We can't control their speech and what they say, much as we sometimes want to, but we can control the amount of time, the subject matter, and so forth.
Thank you,
I have
Mayor
a comment.
Weidergartner. Member Johnson-Musad, go ahead.
I guess, well, first of all, I'd like to clarify that at the last, or one of the last meetings, Vice Chair Ekstrom was facilitating when you were away, Chair Poyeti, and limited discussion to items that were on the agenda. But this particular complaint was about limiting public comment on something that actually was on the agenda that night. So
That's
just
correct.
to be clear.
That's correct.
So, and then I think that, well, I guess, first of all, I think that we have had a precedent as a school committee of welcoming comment on any topic that is related to the school. So I know that precedent isn't what this is about. This is about whether or not there's an open meeting law violation. I'm not sure. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the details on whether it's an open meeting law violation. I don't know if you've had discussion, Chair Poyeti, with our attorney about their perspective on that. But I would say that the relevant document here is our own policy, which we do have on public participation at school committee meetings. And I'd like to read briefly part of that. That at the start of each regularly scheduled school committee meeting, individuals or group representatives will be invited to address the committee. The chairperson shall determine the length of the public participation segment. So I think you could determine that the length of the entire public participation segment is 30 minutes or 1 hour, or however long, but that speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to present their material. The presiding chairperson may permit extension of this time limit. Topics of this discussion must be limited to those items listed on the school committee meeting agenda for that evening. So I guess my comment is that it looks like our own policy gives you leeway in terms of the overall length of the public comment period, but actually doesn't give you leeway to say what topics people choose to express. And I think that the reason why it's important is that the number of people who speak to an issue is important. The different voices of people who speak are important. The different ways that people express their views are important. And I happen to know that there were, in particular, young people of color who had been, especially encouraged to come and share their views at school committee meeting. And those voices weren't heard that night. And I think it was had a discouraging effect on young people who have been disenfranchised. So I know that I don't think that the intent was racist, but I think that our intentions as white people aren't always what matters. And I think that the impact can be quite hard, even though we're just trying to run an efficient meeting and get out at a reasonable hour. And my own regret is that I wasn't familiar enough with our own policy on public comment, and I could have, or any member of this body could have raised a point of order and said, I think people, I'm not sure, I don't think that you should stop people from speaking on this particular topic. And I didn't, and I regret that. So I don't know exactly how it sits in terms of responding to an open meeting law complaint. I'm not sure whether, if we agree as a body that we violated our own policy on this, whether that means that we're in violation of open meeting law, but it does seem like the person deserves a response from us that we didn't actually follow our own policy.
Member Ekstrom, and then Member Hollins, and then Member Karen.
We actually do have precedence of limiting comment to a singular person when there's been multiple comments made on any topic. And by virtue, and this is me thinking out loud, by virtue of saying we have to hear all of the comments related to this particular topic, demonstrates a bias towards listening to all of the comments on this topic as opposed to not listening to all the comments on any topic. And as the mayor pointed out, the intention is for the school committee to be able to conduct their business. And we have more business than we can handle at this point. So the practice wasn't without its merit, and certainly has precedence. I can think of at least 3 or 4 times when Chair Nunez was chair that similar thing happened, or that similar limiting of comments from the public on to a single numbers of comments from the public on a single topic was limited. That's it.
Thank you. Member Hollins, go ahead.
Like everything we discussed, there's so many different strands to this, but the issue on the table for us to decide is responding to a complaint that we violated the law. The law is the law. Our policies are not state law. I don't think we violated state law. And regardless of my personal feeling of any of this, we have to respond to the state. Did we violate the law? I think the answer to that is no, and we should shape our comment in response to that specific portion of this discussion. I don't know if people would agree, but I think Chair Prietti should craft a response. I don't think we violated the law. On the subject of communicating with the public, I just want to say, and I hope it doesn't sound insensitive, that the public has different avenues, unlimited avenues to connect with us. They can write to us. 100 people can write to us. We read every letter. One of the things we could improve maybe is letting the public know, just our own policy during public comment, that maybe we want to share some comments we've received that aren't voiced. Writing is a different way to have a voice. We might do a better job of that. And maybe someone wants to write, I don't know, 100 people could write to us on a subject. But I want to remind the public that they have many options to contact us. Someone contacted me this morning out of the blue. But we don't have options about when we can do the business of school committee meeting. We have a hard time scheduling. We only have so much time. It gets too late. No one can think straight. We are constrained when we can do business of the school, but the public isn't constrained. It's not limited to just voice, and we do meet every 2 weeks. I don't think it's unreasonable, regardless of the demographic of the person, and I've seen it over and over in different meetings. Someone wants to comment on the same topic, for the chair to say, is there something different you want to add, so that we keep new ideas coming forward. But anyway, the whole issue of our getting involved in the details of school administration, I think this is why school committees don't. We're all supportive of looking internally at our systemic issues and program issues with racism. It's really administrative. Anyway, that's my thought. We should respond. It's great to keep this discussion of how to best adapt our policies. have open communication, but the response to this, I think we didn't break the law, and that's what we have to decide. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Karen?
Give me a second. So I agree. I don't think we actually broke the law. And I understand that we do have precedents for this, but I think it has been a little bit since I've had to really read an open meeting law complaint form. Part of it is our response, not just, oh, we didn't do it. We can also respond with actions we plan to take. And even though we may not have broken open meeting law, there are actions we can take as a committee to make sure this type of a situation does not arise again. It could be that we write our policy for more clarity, that chair has an ability to limit the number of comments coming in, if that's the choice we would like to make. It needs to be able to be implemented equilaterally. It's not. So, and I get that. Some nights we have a small agenda and we can listen to 300 people talk to us. I mean, some nights it'd be cool if 300 people cared what we had to say, but I don't know that there are. I think it also could be really important at an upcoming meeting to put on our agenda a clear conversation about how we handle public comment. I am consistently getting asked about I don't really walk down the street anymore, but about how we handle public comment. Why did I not get an email back? Why did nobody respond to my questions? Why did I get told I couldn't talk about anything? If we just had, I know we are overwhelmed with work right now, but I think it could be important to respond to this with clarity, like, hey, I hear what you're saying. I can understand how that felt really terrible. That was not our intention. This is our policy we're following. This is the way we plan to implement it more equally. And this is the way you can communicate with us. And these are expectations you should have in return. I think that part of the problem is the lack of clarity in that policy. And it's somewhat purposeful so that we're not too prescriptive, because each chair has a different way of running the meetings. But when you're talking about an issue of equality already, and then to have it feel like it's not being done equally, I imagine just felt pretty terrible. And in the moment, I didn't think too much about it, but I too later was like, yeah, I do not think you did anything incorrect, Chair. I think we needed to move forward. I just think maybe we as a committee can do a better job of making your job easier and the community's understanding of our policy better.
Thank you. Very well said. Mayor Wiedegartner, please.
Since a couple of people have reminded us that what you're looking for is guidance on how to respond to the open meeting law complaint with a clear statement that we did not violate it. If you like, I would read to you what the open meeting law guide says on public participation, and that will help clarify it.
That would be a dream, because I can't navigate the meeting. I can't run the meeting and look it up at the same time. And I didn't look it up ahead of time. Please.
All right, then I'm happy to read it just so people on the committee understand and people listening understand what the actual law says about it. Under the open meeting law, the public is permitted to attend meetings of public bodies, but is excluded from an executive session that is called for a valid purpose listed in the law. While the public body is permitted to attend an open meeting, an individual may not address the public body without permission of the chair. An individual may not disrupt a meeting of a public body, and at the request of the chair, all members of the public must be silent. If, after clear warning, a person continues to be disruptive, the chair may order the person to leave the meeting. If the person does not leave, the chair may authorize a constable or other officer to remove the person. Although public participation is entirely within the chair's discretion, the Attorney General encourages public bodies to allow as much public participation as time permits. Any member of the public may make an audio or video recording of the open session of a public meeting. A member of the public who wishes to record a meeting must first notify the chair, etc. The chair is required to inform other attendees of any such recording at the beginning of the meeting. If someone arrives after the meeting has begun and wishes to record a meeting, that person should attempt to notify the chair. This is all about recording, not quite what we're talking about, but I'll finish. Prior to beginning recording, ideally in a manner that does not significantly disrupt the meeting in progress, such as passing a note for the chair to the board administrator or secretary. The chair should endeavor to acknowledge such attempts at notification and announce the fact of any recording to those in the audience. So that is more importantly, the other two paragraphs in the sentence that ended, the Attorney General encourages public bodies to allow as much participation as time permits. But I think it's clear in reading that even with our policies, which is what has to guide us through our meetings so that we don't break the law, I think it's pretty clear that we did not break the law under the circumstances. At least it's clear to me.
Further comment? Member Hollins, do you have your hand up? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I think our response should be something like on December 9th at our public school committee meeting, we read out loud for ourselves and the public the Attorney General's guidance on open meeting law and public participation, and then our vote on whether we think we violated the law. And then it should say something like, we're sensitive to the importance of public communication and are taking the complainants' interest and our own interest under review for policy review or something like that. I just want to say, personally, I was uncomfortable with that exchange at our last meeting, but I didn't interrupt. I don't know the demographic of anyone participating. There was just a long agenda, and I remember it feeling uncomfortable. I think if we're going to say, and typically, historically, you would have a meeting in a place, there would be packets on the table and extra copies of the agenda. So anybody attending would have a copy of the agenda. They could just quickly look on their lap to see what are the topics. In this forum, it's really hard to know what the agenda items are if someone says we're only going to discuss items on the agenda and not to say what those are. So I agree with Katie. I think we should take it under advisement and look at how we do public participation. But I think we can move on, and that's my suggestion on how to respond. I appreciate the mayor actually reading this so we can all hear what the law says. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a comment.
Sure. Member Johnson-Musad and then Member Wall.
I encourage us in thinking about how to respond, that yes, we do have to respond to the legalistic issue and say we did not apparently break open meeting law, but I just would encourage the chair or when you're responding to remember there's a human being on the other side, and also that many eyes are watching and many ears are listening, and people who have been disenfranchised and who came to a meeting, just to really think about those people and the impact, so that I just think that there's a danger that we as a school committee can respond in a way that meets our legalistic duty without showing compassion for any harm that may have been caused by the way that the policy was implemented.
Sure, and hopefully my precedent of the last response I did shows that I do much appreciate the public engaging with us, regardless of how, even if it's an open meeting complaint. And we have to show that we're all in this as a community together. This is not an us versus them in any way. And I did while we've been discussing, like I did the previous time, I've taken a bunch of notes and I've identified actions that we could take. The actions include improve our policy on public comment. For example, the chair can limit the number of comments coming in, offer an agenda item in the future with a conversation in public session on how we handle public comment, and then reading out loud the public comment section of the open meeting law at tonight's meeting. And there, I'm happy to take down any other actions, but I feel like I do have at this point enough to craft a response. Member Wall, please go ahead.
I would like to say that I think that there was no way that you had any clue who wanted to speak, what their identifying factors were, or anything. And if I remember correctly, you said if anyone has anything different they would like to add to the discussion, please speak at this time. I do think that we should clarify our position on public speaking, that would be a good discussion to have at some later date. But I do think that criticizing you for being unkind is not fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Wall. Further discussion? Okay, so as I've done previously, I will craft the response. I will send it off to the complainant as well as the AG's office. I'll get a copy to into the packet for our next meeting so that it can be shared with the committee and the public. And I appreciate all of your thoughts and ideas. Member Hollins, another comment on this?
Yes, I just wanted to say, as far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't mind if you wrote a separate response to the complainant with maybe something different than you want to say strictly to the AG about their oversight with the law. If you wanted to do that, it would be fine.
That sounds like a lot of work, but okay, that might be a good idea. Okay. Anything else? That was a good discussion. Thank you, guys. I gotta find my agenda. I have 40,000 windows open here. Okay, let's see.
I think we're done. The executive session.
Yeah, so we do need to have an executive session. And I noticed that actually all of what's there, executive session will be called MGL C30 A subsection 21, which is actually all of the exemptions. The two we're talking about tonight are exemptions number, I believe it's 2 and 3. Hang on, I have the window open and I will read them. Okay, so number 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. And then exemption number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, and I do declare.
Also number 10.
And exemption number 10, thank you. To discuss trade secrets or confidential, competitively sensitive, or other proprietary information provided in the course of activities conducted by a government body as an energy supplier?
No, it's because we have to review executive session minutes, and that is trade secrets, confidential, competitive, sensitive.
Oh, yeah, for approving executive session minutes so they can be released to the public. There you go. We need a vote, and we will not be returning to the public session. There's no votes anticipated this evening. I appreciate all of the.
I'm sorry, just a quick clarification. Sometimes we will approve minutes and not release them immediately. We release them at the time when the information is no longer strategic.
Absolutely, so, yes. It doesn't mean we're releasing them right away. Yes. Now people are going to request them. Anyway, thank you. Thank you to everyone who participated tonight. Thank you for everyone being such good community engaged participants. It's very appreciated. It was very helpful to have all of the smart folks at the table today to work through, particularly the winter athletics stuff. And I wish everyone good health and happy holidays. And let's do a roll call vote or a motion for to enter executive session, please.
So moved, Johnson Musad.
And a second.
Second.
And a roll call vote, please.
Member Karen,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ekstrom,
Yes.
Member Hollins,
Yes.
Secretary Johnson Musad, I'm a yes. Chair Poyetti,
Yes.
Member Wall,
Yes.
Mayor Wiedegartner.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, and a motion to close the public session.
So moved, Johnson Musad.
And a second.
Second, Wiedegartner.
Member Karen.
I don't know who it was.
Oh no, I'm sorry, I was starting the roll call, trying to get too speedy here.
Yes.
Vice Chair Ekstrom,
Yes.
Member Hollins,
Yes.
Secretary Johnson Musad, I'm a yes. Let's see, Chair Poyetti,
Yes.
Member Wall,
Yes.
Mayor Wiedegartner.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay,
All right,
and
now
that
don't
adjourns
go
us
anywhere.
at 8:40. Why are you talking over the chair?
Oh,
Adjourns us at
No.
8:41 p.m. And you all can have 5 minutes and then meet you in executive session.
Oh, wait, if there are issues with getting into the executive session, what's our response? What are we doing?
I'm going to open it right now. There should be no issue.